Okay, Rabbi, we're going to start tonight talking about the Chag of Chanuka. Habarim L'Tava.
Everybody, you speak about Hanukkah. In the morning it's Hanukkah, Rabbi Hanukkah, everybody
Right.
Hanukkah.
You know what the sages said, right? The Chachamim, they said, when the holiday's coming up, you got to talk about the holiday. You know why? Because you have to know what to do. But probably what I'm going to tell you, you're not going to hear from anybody else.
Okay.
All the details that I don't think you're going to catch all the details that I tell you
Let's see.
somewhere else. But we'll see. I know what happens. We'll try to be original as possible. Okay. So the interesting thing about Hanukkah, number one, is that you have to understand the nature of what happened over there. That the Greek galut, this was a galut in Greece. The Greeks were afflicting the Jews. There was an affliction going on. So they say the Chazal, there's 4 galuyot that are going to happen, right, in Am Yisrael, in the world today. What's going to be? First is going to be Babel, that was already Nebuchadnezzar. Then it was Paras, right, which is Achashverosh and his friends, right, all of that. So then we have the Greeks, right? Who founded the Greek Empire? Who was the one who founded that empire? You know who that was? Alexander the Great, right? He was the one who founded the Greek Empire. He was the first king over there.
Alexander Macedonsky.
So they say that Alexander the Great, he ruled over the whole world. He was a very big king, very mighty king. He was very mighty.
What about the purpose? Was it also a galut?
Yeah, well, the interesting thing is like this, right? That they say the galut of Mitzrayim includes all the galuyot. It had the element of all of them. But now we have each one separately, one after the other. Mitzrayim was everything together. Yeah.
Now we are separate.
It was a deluxe version of the galut, everything from every side, from every corner. That's the idea, right? So what we're saying is that Alexander the Great, he was the one who founded the Greek kingdom. And what happened was that after he died, he ruled over the whole world, as we said. After he died, what happened was that his sons took over. He had 4 sons, and he gave them the malchut. But since each son wanted to have a lot of power, so what he did was he split up the malchut into 4 pieces. And he gave 1 piece to each one of the sons. That's what happened, right? So what happened was that there was a northern kingdom, there was a southern kingdom, there was east and west. So what happened was that these kingdoms eventually turned into the 2 galuyot that we have after that, which is what? One is the Greece, that was the southern kingdom, and then there was the northern kingdom, which was what? That was Rome. The northern kingdom that Alexander left for his sons, that became Rome. So what happened was that there was a big battle going on all the time, big rivalry going on between the north and the south. Wars going on all the time. This is depicted, where? Depicted in the book of Daniel. Over there it talks about this. So what happened was that the northern kingdom became Rome, the southern kingdom was Greece, and they're going after each other every few years. Another war. World War II, World War III, World War IV, like this, going all the time, trying to defeat each other. They couldn't. The Romans tried to defeat the Greeks. In the end, they succeeded, but it took them a very, very long time to defeat the Greeks. You know why? Because the Greeks were very powerful. They had a very powerful kingdom, and they lasted for quite a long time also. But the interesting thing about the Greek galut is that as opposed to all the other galuyot, this was not a physical galut. What does that mean? That they stayed in Eretz Israel, the Jews. They didn't go anywhere. It's not like the Greeks. It's not like the Greeks, threw them out and put them into exile. No, they didn't want to do that. They weren't interested in exiling the Jews. This wasn't a part of their itinerary. So why do we call it galut then? Galut, the whole point of galut is to go out of Eretz Israel. We leave. That's galut, right? Galut. So what kind of galut is that? You stay in Eretz Israel, that's called galut?
No.
This is the interesting thing, right? So the answer is yes. Why is that? What's the reason why? Because when you have galut in a deeper sense, it means something else. It doesn't mean physical galut only. It means a spiritual galut. What does it mean, spiritual galut? What is that? Spiritual galut means that the Shekhinah is departing from us. The divine presence, the presence of Hashem, is going away, He's hiding His face from us. So when Hashem hides His face, that's called galut. Galut HaShekhinah. The Shekhinah is not present anymore so much. This is the idea. So this was the whole idea of the Greek galut. It was a spiritual galut. The Shekhinah went away from us. We lost the Shekhinah, and because of that, the Greeks became more powerful and powerful. But there was also another thing with the Greek galut, which is different than all the other galuyot. You know what it is? The Greek galut was not, as we said, it wasn't a physical galut. It was more like a cultural galut as well. Cultural. What does that mean? What do I mean to say by that? That when it comes to the first two galuyot, Nebuchadnezzar and the Paras, they weren't really trying to change the Jews, as a nation, as a culture, their culture. They weren't trying to change their Torah. I'm sorry?
What that means religion? Galut.
Galut means exile.
Huh?
Exile.
When you leave America, אתה חי בגלות.
Exile, Gagdeben, Gagdebu licha. This is the idea, right? So, what does that mean? That the Greek galut, as we said, was a cultural galut, not like the first two. The first two were physically galut, Bavel and Paras. The Greek galut was a cultural galut. What does that mean? That the Greeks were the first ones from all the goyim that penetrated into the culture of the Jews and tried to change their culture altogether. They tried to change their beliefs. They tried to go inside their Torah and trying to cancel and alter, make all kinds of reforms, all kinds of alterations and deviations. That's the idea. So the Greeks, they succeeded in this, by the way. That's the idea. The Greeks managed to penetrate into the Jewish culture and change it. This is what they were trying to do. So for them, it was like a whole series of things. You know what they say, right? That the galut of Yavan, of Greece, is compared to what? Which animal is it compared to? The namer. Right.
Really?
Namer. How did you guess?
I'll guess. Because it's irrelevant.
Right?
It has its
They
own
say
story.
Greece is the namer. Right? By the way, today, there's a mistake they have in Israel today. They think that the namer is the leopard. This is a mistake. What is really the namer? The namer is really the tiger.
It's a mamzer.
That's also true, right? We talked about that. We talked about that. But what does it have to do with Greece? Right? The namer, so they say the Chazal, just like the namer, the tiger has stripes, one after the other. So the Greeks also were like that. What does that mean? That they enacted one decree after another, like a striped tiger, one stripe after the other. What does that mean? First they will tell you, listen, don't study Torah. Then they will tell you, don't keep Shabbat. Then they will tell you, don't do Brit Milah. Right? Every day something new. Every time a new decree. Every day making you crazy. They made the Jews like crazy like that. They started to afflict them with all kinds of strange decrees, one after the other. Then they said also another thing. They said, you know what? We want you to write on the keren shor of the horns of the ox. We have no portion in the God of Israel. What kind of thing is this? What kind of crazy, maneuver is that to do? But really, what it was psychological pressure, to change the culture of the Jews. They were trying to tell the Jews like this, right? The whole point of the Greek culture, you know what it was? It was a very advanced culture. They contributed a lot to society, in terms of technology, in terms of mathematics, all kinds of things. There was a lot of big contribution they made to the humanity, the Greeks. Right, the philosophy also, right? That's also true. But we have to discuss that, by the way, what philosophy means to us as Jews. Well, how do we understand that? But the whole point of the Greeks was like this, right? The Greeks were not like the Jews. What does that mean? The Jews received the Torah. So for the Jews, this is like, what they used to call the communists. When we were in the communist countries, they used to call this dogma. What's dogma? Something you can't rationally prove. You can't logically prove something like that. What does that mean? You can't really prove rationally that there's a God. You can't prove that there's all kinds of religious, they call that dogma. So this was also the Greek idea. The Greek philosophy was, whatever you can't prove physically or by logic, we don't believe that. This is the idea, It has to be verifiable by means of derivation, by means of logic, by means of examination. So what happened was that the Greeks told the Jews, listen, you Jews are crazy. You have all these crazy beliefs, but according to rational deduction, there's no way to deduce these things. So you guys are fanatics. This is not the way to live. So they said, be like us. What does that mean? We have a philosophy. So what is philosophy, Mehmet? What is in philosophy the truth of what that is? is that according to Jewish thinking culture? It's not really, It's really against. What does that mean? In philosophy, you have to prove what you want to say. You have to rationally deduce something. Step A, step B, step C. Okay, if this is so, okay, then this all comes after that. Step C, step D. Everything has to be rationally derived. When it comes to the Jews, we're not like that. We're believers. Ma'aminim b'nei ma'aminim. We're people who believe. We have a tradition. We receive the Torah. So the Greeks wanted to say to the Jews, no, this is not the way to go. You have no portion in the God of Israel. You got to be like us. We're also intellectual people, just like you, but we only believe things which we can verify. Trust but verify. They say. You know what I mean? That's the way we are. So they try to get the Jews to change their culture like that, the way they think about things, because we Jews, what are we? We're simple people who believe. Our strength is that we have emunah. You know what I mean? The Goyim don't have emunah. They don't have that emunah like we did. So they tried to lower us. They tried to cancel our emunah. They tried to change our emunah. This was the way they wanted to change our mind, the way our mind thinks, the way our mind functions. So come sit down, join us. Come sit down. So there was also another thing involved there, which was that they told the Jews, you Jews are always doing your mitzvot and commandments, and this, as we said, we have no way to verify these things. So therefore, you should do things which we can verify that they help you in life. We can physically verify. So what were they talking about? Do sports, do competition, build your body, do workouts, this kind. Build your muscles, in other words, build your physical self to make yourself physically superior. Because this is the way that the Greeks were. This is Greek culture. The Greek culture was basically go to the gymnasium, and do sports.
Olympics.
Right, that's the idea. Yeah. For them, the value of physical sport is very, very important. Why is that? Because you make your body more beautiful, more strong, more rigid, more whatever. Right, all these things. So that's what we have to, because this is something you can physically verify. When it comes to things which you cannot verify, like lighting Chanuka candles, who needs that? What does it help you? What does it give you? What can you prove to me scientifically that Chanuka candles give you something? I don't know. Try. Let's see. Let's sit down. You prove to me scientifically, right? Can I prove that? Oh, can I prove it? Okay, so then you shouldn't waste your time doing things like that. This was the idea.
At that time we didn't have that.
Right, but this is just an example, right?
Example.
Any other mitzvah could be the same thing. Tefillin, what can you prove to me about tefillin, right? Can't prove anything. Also then it doesn't exist. So by way of philosophy works like that. You understand? Philosophy works that if you can't prove it rationally, it doesn't exist. We cancel it out, right? You've been nullified. So therefore, they said to you, listen, right on the horn of the shore of the ox. Because you have right. That's it. In other words, you have no. This is not the way to live. This is not the proper way lifestyle for a human being. This is not the proper way. This was the Greek. So the Greeks wanted to penetrate into the Jewish mind, and also into the Jewish soul, the spirit of the Jew. This was something very, very deep. You know what I mean? Much more deep than just destroying a building, knocking it down, and doing something like that, right? And plowing the land over there. This is much more deep. What does that mean? That you're really trying to uproot the Jew from the base,
Judaism.
Right? That's all. Right? That's the idea, right? The whole depth of the Judaism. You want to uproot that. That's the idea. So what does that mean? That the Greeks were there was a very big, thorough galut, very deep galut. It was a Greek galut. It was something much more profound than the other galuyot. An interesting thing, by the way, is that if you look at today's culture, right? Look what's going on today. We have kaduregel, kadursal. We have basketball, football, baseball, right? All these things, soccer. Then we have the Olympics, and we have these competitions and this and that. This is all Greek culture. So then, what really changed? I mean, how is this a different galut? We're now not in the Greek galut anymore. The Greeks were already defeated a long time ago. But we still have all the elements of the Greek galut now. Also, we have all these things, right? Tarbut Yavan, we call that in Hebrew, right? Greek culture. We still have it today. All the sports, all the also they study philosophy in college.
Only Olympic we have Greeks.
Nothing else.
Right, but really, there's all these things are Greek culture. You know, basketball, football, baseball, everything is Greek culture.
All kind of sports.
Yeah, sports. Yeah, that's the idea.
activities, okay.
You know. Also, when it comes to going to the theater, going to the movies, you know, this is also Greek culture. You know, theater, teatroni.
Yes.
You know, this is also. Yeah.
She means that they were on the Chernobyl.
This we got it on Har Sinai.
Only then.
Yeah. They're all also putting before, but Avraham Avinu was putting tefillin. You know, of course. You know, right? Avraham Avinu, Yitzchak Avinu, Yaakov Avinu. They were doing all the mitzvot, obviously. You know.
Yeah.
They were doing all the mitzvot. So what's the story? The story is that the Greek culture, as we said, right, was trying to permeate. But the interesting thing is that we still have these things today. Why is that? So you know what? You know why? Because they say, the Ibn Ezra says something interesting about that. He says that really, the Galut of Greece and the Galut of Rome is really one. That's what he says, right? Exactly. In other words, the Romans pretty much continued the culture of the Greeks. They incorporated that culture into their culture. So then, what was really defeated? What was the defeat? What was the how did we win out? They were lighting these candles and commemorating all these things. How did we win? What was the victory? The victory was that persecution was stopped. You know what I'm saying? That was the idea. Because what happened was like this, right? That there was the Greek governors who were wicked people. They enacted all kinds of decrees onto the Jewish people, one decree after the other, and also they took their money as well. And then they started much more taxation, right? Like confiscation, all kinds of things, cruel stuff, like the Nazis did, in Europe, like things like this, confiscating lands, confiscations, all kinds of things. There was also
without representation.
Right, exactly, right. The Tea Party, right. So besides that, there was also another element, which was that they were also taking their women as well, raping the women. You know what I mean? What was the culture? The culture was that such a cruel thing, they enacted. This was in the time of Antiochus, Yimach Shemo was it was a big Rasha, right? So what happened was at that time that there was a rule like this they made, that every young Jewish girl that would get married, before she would go to the chuppah, first she had to go to the governor, and have one night with the governor, of the Greek governor, and then you can go to the chuppah, Gapuchos, Gapuchos, and then the husband gets second, that's the idea, that's the idea. So this was also degradation, defilement, defiling our women like this. So the galut became very, very unbearable. The Greeks were trying to grab us from every side possible, to grab everything that they could. They also came into the Bet HaMikdash. They started to defile the Bet HaMikdash. They went in there, destroying things, making them tameh, making them impure, making them defiled. They also brought avodah zarah in there, all kinds of things, So they made us crazy from every side, from every possible way. It was something unbearable, the Greek galut. It was something really, really very, very heavy. Even though we were still in the land of Israel, we were still right there. But what happened was that they succeeded in permeating the Jewish mind, and the mindset. So therefore the galut was very, very severe. This was the idea, So the fact that we defeated them and repelled them was a very great victory for the Jewish people. Because otherwise, we were up the creek, as they say, right? Nowhere to escape. This is the idea. So it says in the Rambam like this, right? That I'll read you the language of the Rambam. He says, that after all these things which I described, which is also in the Rambam, he says later on that what happened was that the Hashmonaim were the ones who saved the Jewish people from the hands of the Greeks. Who were the Hashmonaim? These were, Kohanim, the priests. Yeah, exactly. These were all Kohanim. There, as we said, as we mentioned inside, there was 12 of them from that family. And these were the ones who repelled the Greeks, defeated them. And they were the ones, after that, who made a kingdom also. They made a malchut. Because the kingdom was interrupted at that time, when the Greeks were ruling. So what happened was that once the Greeks were repelled, they made a malchut. What was the malchut? It was called the Hashmonaim. Right? Who are the Hashmonaim? These are Kohanim. The truth is, the halacha says, that a Kohen is not allowed to be a king. Not allowed to be a king. There's a halacha like that. So the truth is, what they did was really actually not so good, but it was like a temporary measure in order to repel these people, these wicked people, these sinners, these marauders. That's what it was for. But the problem was, I'm sorry.
Did we have a prophet at this time?
There wasn't really prophecy at that time. So what happened was that the Malchut of the Hashmonaim, how long did it last? It lasted for 200 years. Yes, long time. It was a big dynasty, right? So the truth is that the Malchut of the Hashmonaim lasted until almost the end of the Second Temple era. What happened? What was the story over there? You know what the story was? The story was that 200 years they were ruling, and they had some slaves. The Malchut. They had some people they used to buy as slaves. At that time, slavery was very common. It was like everyday occurrence, right? So what happened was that there was one slave that they had. His name was Hurdus, Herod, right? So what this guy did was he got up against that family and he murdered all of them. He killed everybody, killed off the whole family. That's what he did. He was their slave. He was from Edom. He was from Esav, Hurdus. So what happens is like this, right? When you're a slave, what the Jews do is like this: they buy and they convert him partially. They take him to the mikveh, so he has to keep the mitzvot of the women, at least that much, right? Not according to men, not on that level of the men. So he has to keep it at least that much. That's what Hurdus was, Herod. So that was, he killed off the whole family, one after the other, and then he also killed off all the chachamim as well, all the rabbis as well. He himself or
he?
Yeah, he himself. Yeah, he and his people, right? Jamati,
His followers.
That's the idea, right? So what happened was that he took the Malchut after the Hashmonaim, and he was the king after that. You understand? After that era. So what happened was that after Hurdus, the Romans, right, after a couple of years already, a few years, they destroyed the temple. Second temple. Yeah, this was the whole procession of events, right? The Hashmonaim. So why were the Hashmonaim punished like this? They were such big tzaddikim because they took the Malchut, right, really not proper. What does that mean? They shouldn't have taken the Malchut for 200 years because they were Kohanim. They were not supposed to be Melachim. They were not supposed to be.
Explain one thing to me. The time period between the first temple to the second temple. How many years?
70 years.
70 years.
Yeah.
Okay. The first temple was destroyed by
Nebuchadnezzar.
Greeks.
Babel.
Then the Maccabi came.
Then it was Paras after that, right? Achashverosh, then Cyrus.
They were liberated by Kohanim.
The Kohanim liberated them from the Greeks, right? Which was the after that. There was several periods,
So
right? First there was Babel lasted for 70 years.
Okay.
Then came Paras, right?
Second destruction.
Babel destroyed the first temple.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
They lasted for a certain amount of time, and then Paras came and destroyed Babel. Right. So then the Persians built the second Beit HaMikdash, as we mentioned, right? Okay. Cyrus was the one who sanctioned the building.
So the Maccabi, they liberated
At that time, the Maccabees were not even around that, right? So what happened was that the Persians built the second temple, along together with the Jews, together cooperation.
Okay.
So then what happened was that after the Persian rule was over, Greeks came in. Understand?
Okay.
The next Galut was the Greek. After the Persian.
So when were the Maccabees? Who did they liberate?
So they repelled the Greeks. That's what happened, right? So this was already 200 years into the second temple already. Understand? It was way into the second temple already.
Who liberated?
So the Maccabees liberated from the Greeks.
Okay. The Romans took the second temple.
Right.
Okay. So this is the first temple. This is the second temple. The period is 70 years. Where are the Maccabees?
They were not there. They were in the second temple.
So they liberated the Romans?
No, the Greeks.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is the first temple.
Right.
This is the second temple.
Yeah.
You said the time period here
was 70 years, right? At that time, it was Babel.
Okay, here's Babel.
Right. And then Paras took over.
So
right.
We're still in the first temple.
No, it was destroyed by Babel, the first temple.
Okay.
That was before.
This is the time period from this point to this point is 70 years.
7 years.
Okay. Where are the Maccabees? In here?
Not
or
there.
here?
No, not there. Over there,
Right
right?
here.
In the second temple.
In the second temple.
Yes, yes.
So they liberated the second temple from the Romans.
From the Greeks.
But the second temple was destroyed by the Romans.
Right, but they were before the Romans. The Maccabees. You understand? They became before the Romans.
Okay. So the Greeks took the second temple.
They didn't really destroy it, right? They just defiled
Took
it.
over.
Right, yeah. They took over, yeah.
Okay.
They took over, yeah.
They
that's
took
right.
over.
Yeah.
Then came the Maccabees.
Yeah.
They liberated the second temple.
Right. Yes.
And then came the Romans.
Romans are destroyed, right? That's what happened.
So this is the sequence.
This is the timeline, yeah.
Okay.
That's the idea. So again, right? It says the Rambam regarding this that what happened was that after the Hashmonaim, they defeated the Greeks. What happened was that they came into the Hechal, they came into the Bet HaMikdash. They found one jar of oil over there which was clean. All the rest was opened up and defiled, right? So therefore, they used that jar of oil, lasted for 8 days, as we said. Right, and this is the reason why they made the Chanuka. This was the 8 days.
Yeah, I have a question. In the temple, it was a menorah. With
Right, there was a
6.
menorah.
I mean, with 7.
With 7, right? Yes.
And now we have it by 9. We have the menorah with 9. Okay.
Right, but it's really 8 because the ninth one is just a spare. It's a spare tire. Spare tire. You know what I mean?
Plus 1.
Yeah, it's spare tire.
Correct. It was 6 plus 1.
Right. 6 plus 1. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Now
yes,
we have
yes.
8 plus 1. How come we change from 6 plus 1 to 8?
Because the Chanukah has to do with the days, right? Bet HaMikdash does nothing to do with that. Understand? It's not really connected with Chanukah.
So we have Hanukkah. We changed it to 8.
Not that we changed it. It's really a different thing altogether. You know what I mean? It has nothing to do with one or the other.
So
You know?
once we
Yeah.
liberated everybody, how come we didn't go back to 6 plus 1?
They did in the Mikdash. They had that one,
Okay.
right? But when it comes to Hanukkah, 8 because of the 8 days. You know what I mean? It's two different mitzvot, really, right? One was, that there's a mitzvah to light the Hanukkah candles on the 8 days, and there's a mitzvah to light in the Bet HaMikdash the menorah every day. That's every day of the year.
Oh, we used to light that.
Every day of the year. That's what it is, right? It's a different mitzvah altogether.
Alright.
You know what I mean? What do they do over there? They light the menorah at the Bet HaMikdash right before the night, right? And it stays lit all night until the morning. It goes out. And then they light again the next day. Same thing, right? Over and over. This goes on forever. This is the way it works. So this is so it's really two different mitzvot, you know what I mean? So regarding the menorah that they had over there in the Bet HaMikdash, they say that it was taken by the Romans. You know, there are some accounts like that in Talmud. The Romans took it. All kinds of accounts like that. They stay still in the Vatican today. You know, they still have it somewhere. The basement over there. They have it somewhere there. Because they're the ones who took it. They stole it, right? They stole those utensils, right? That's the
The
idea.
spoils belong to the victor.
Okay, for the time being, right? Then there's going to be another victor,
When
right?
Mashiach comes again, the
Yes.
spoils belong to the victor.
Exactly, that's the idea. Okay, very good. So, one of the interesting things about Hanukkah is that the women, during the lighting of the candles, as we said, right, that the lighting is for half an hour. This is the time of the mitzvah. After that, it's already like optional. You know, you want to keep it up, it's up to you. You can extinguish also. There's no reason to keep it more than half hour. By the way, I want to remind you one thing, that 2 years ago, we saw that in Brooklyn there's a house that burned down. There were some people who were killed from Hanukkah candles. So it's a good thing to remind people about this, because the truth is, there's a few safeguards that a person should do. The first basic safeguards that a person should do with Hanukkah candles, that number one, once you lit it for a half hour, you can put it out. So don't leave it just unattended and go somewhere. There's no reason to leave it unattended like that. You know what I mean? So a person has to use his brain, his seichel. Yeah, exactly. You don't leave a fire and just go somewhere, even though you think it's stable, but something may happen. You never know what's going to happen. You know what I mean? So therefore, once you did the half hour of the lighting of the candles, the mitzvah is over. Thank you very much. Now put it out and go where you want to go. You want to go out to dinner? You want to go out for some parties or whatever? Right. Put it out and do what you want. But don't leave it lit like that. You may come back, you may find a charcoal. You know what I mean? Piece of charcoal. Your house turned into, God forbid. Who wants to do something? It happens over and over again. Every couple of years we hear things like this. So person has to be very, very careful. Don't leave the candles unattended. That's the idea, right? This is a very, very, you gotta guard your life. It's not more important than your life. This kind of thing. That's one, right? But also another thing is which is what, that the women have a custom. There's a minhag by the women that they don't do melacha, they don't do labor during the lighting of the candles. That half hour. What does that mean? That they shouldn't do like labor, like real labor.
Washing dishes.
I'm not talking about washing dishes because that's not real labor. That you can even do on Shabbat. You can wash dishes also. So what's the labor over there? So we're talking about like sewing, and things like this. Real melacha, real labor. Things like this. Sewing. There's also crochet and all kinds of labors like this.
Washing clothes.
Regarding laundry, things like this. Right. That's the idea. So things like this, a person shouldn't do on during the half hour. But once that half hour is over, they can do whatever they want. That's the idea.
Go back to slavery.
Also, they say another thing, which is that even though the custom is not to do labor during that half hour for the women, but they're allowed to cook, because the cooking is like really something which is essential to the house. So therefore, we say cooking is allowed. When it comes to like other types of labor which are not really so necessary, we say don't do that, right? Don't do these kinds of things. It's also brought down, by the way, in the Poskim, that there are some women who don't do, what they do is they try to take the whole week off because of Chanuka. You know what I mean? 8 days, no labor whatsoever, right? So the truth is, they say this is exaggerated. They say it's too much because you can't have a house like that. Run a house 8 days without any labor. So therefore, there's no reason to go that far. That's not the idea. So why do they have this minhag? What's the reason why? It's to signify that half hour you're not allowed to use the candles for other things, for mundane purposes. What does that mean? You're not allowed to use that light of the Chanukiah to, let's say, read a pamphlet or to do some, count your coins, count your money, things like this, right? Yeah, you don't really need it. You don't really need it much.
Doesn't apply to us.
But the truth is that anyway, you got to be careful about that. Sometimes people, a person may think, I can just stand over there, and use that a little bit, whatever. But they say don't use that, and this is the reason why we have the shamash. Why we have the shamash? Because if you're going to come to use the candles, at least you'll be using also the mundane one as well. You know what I mean? This way, it won't be so bad. That's the idea. That's why they have the shamash over there. One of the reasons why they have it.
But
Number 9. That's what you asked about,
to be
right?
burned also, correct? If you use
Also, there, half hour is enough. You don't need any more than that.
okay.
Right?
But it's considered, once you lit all the other candles with the shamash, it's considered to be part of the Chanukiah.
Right. What that means is it's a spare in order that you should be able to use something which is not mitzvah.
Because in Georgia, I remember,
Yeah.
once we lit the Chanukiah
Yeah.
with the shamash, we would put the shamash out.
Ah.
That's how we did it in Georgia.
Oh, I see. Okay. So meaning what? That there was no shamash at all.
There was a shamash.
Yeah, and I'm saying
You lit
during the
one
lighting,
candle.
during
You lit the one candle.
Right.
You put the candle to shamash out.
it shouldn't be like that. This was a mistake. This was a mistake.
I remember.
Yeah, this was a mistake because there should be something there. This is like a buffer zone. This shamash that allows you to use some kosher light instead of using something which is not kosher for you to use.
In the United States, we
Right.
were told not to burn the shamash also, and we were shocked.
Right. That's the proper way to do. That's the proper way. Yes. Of course. That's the whole idea.
These little details, they do matter.
They do that.
That's what I want to know.
They do. Yeah, for sure. No question about it. So this is the idea with the women. But when it comes to the men, we don't have such a minhag like this. So therefore, if the men want to do labor during the burning of the candles, they can do whatever they want to do. Right? There's no prohibition to do any kind of labor there. Whatever it is, or they want to work, they want to do some business, whatever it is. There's no prohibition. Some people, they think, like when I light the Hanukkah candles, I just want to watch it. Like stare at it.
Yeah, it's very attractive.
Yeah, it is. The truth is, that there is something good about that. Why? Because they say, the Mekubalim, whatever, they say that there's a big light there, spiritual light in those candles. You know what I mean? Especially that half hour. After that, there's nothing. But that half hour, there's a special light there. That light is good it's healthy for the soul, right? To see that. They say it's the light of Mashiach, whatever. They say even something like that, right? There you see some real spiritual light there, something big. And really, the truth is that we're in a darkness. This galut is very dark, So that lights that we put on is lighting up that darkness of the galut. So therefore, it's actually very healthy to look at it. But you're not obligated. There's no obligation to do that. It's just
for 5 minutes.
right, whatever. It's just
Okay.
so you can have some sufganiyot while you're looking at it, whatever. Do some things. Play with your dreidel, whatever. Whatever you want to do. You play with your kids, right? Do some homework with them or whatever.
Who has
that's the idea.
the Chanukah in the family? The father?
So regarding the lighting of the Chanukiah, if the father is home, he should be the one who lights the Chanukiah. But the Ashkenazim have a different custom. What they do is that everybody lights. Everybody has their own Chanukiah. The daughter, the son, this one, that one. Everybody's got their own, right? That's the idea. So they have like 10 of them, sometimes 15, depending on the size of the family, right? Whatever, right? Blessed family, blessed, right? But so blessed and noisy, right? There's a noisy family also. So that's the way it is. So you have, but the Sephardim don't do like that. The Sephardim, it's a central program, centralized government. What does that mean? The father lights for everybody. Everybody says Amen, and that's it, right? Shalom Aleichem.
Next day, can the wife light the candle?
As we mentioned inside, this should only be done if the father is not home.
Okay, but the eldest one is at home, he should be doing the Chanuka. Or the oldest son one day, because we take turns. Everybody wants to read the Baracha and light the Chanuka.
Right. The truth is, that the head of the family should do it. As a good thing. The head of the family. You know why? Because it's his house. It's his home. It's his mitzvah. You know what I mean? More than the children. The children are just supporting role. It's a supporting actor. The main guy, the main honcho is the father. It's his house. It's really his mitzvah. More than everybody else. So therefore, the truth is, that the father should do it. Be a hug. Hug it. Hug the mitzvah. That's the way it is. The father lights. Everybody says Amen. But as we mentioned inside, that if a person is not going to be home, and he's not coming home that night, so it's going to be not feasible for him to light. So then his wife will light for him, and she will make all the brachot and everything. They'll do the whole thing from beginning to A to Z, right? And that's it. He fulfills his obligation. He doesn't have to do nothing. He's totally absolved from everything. That's the idea, right? But if he's going to come, as we mentioned, if he's going to come a little bit late, they should wait for him, and he'll do it. Even though the proper time to do it is the first half hour, as we said. What does that mean? That the sun goes down at 4:30, so the proper time to light is about 15 minutes after that. 4:45, quarter to 5. This is the best time to light, from quarter to 5 until 5:15. That half hour is the opportune time. The earlier the better. That's the idea. So, but if a person is not able to come at that half hour because of the business, the work, all kinds of things, he's got meetings, all kinds, he's being held up. Also, the same thing applies, by the way, you should know that if they have the Torah class also, and they want to do that class before they light, they can do that. You know why? Because if they all go home, probably they won't come back, you know what I mean? Yeah, so the Torah class is going to be gone. It's going to be gone. Go to oblivion, right? That's the idea. So therefore, also because the Torah class, a person, can delay. There's also a big argument regarding another thing, which is similar to that, which is what? That you have people who are learning yeshiva, or kollel, right? So those guys are sitting in yeshiva until at least 7 o'clock in the evening. But it gets dark at 5. So what do you do? Right? How do you do it? So the truth is that depends on who you are and what you are, right? If you are married, so some kollel, some yeshivot, what they do is that the husband goes home at 4:30, goes home and lights with the family, and then we'll see what happens, right? Maybe he'll come back, maybe he'll study at home, whatever is right, whatever will be. That's the idea, right? That's one solution. There's also another shita, another opinion, which says that no, don't go home. Just wait till 7 o'clock, till you finish the seder of study, and then go home and light at 7. What's the reason why? Why is it better to do this way? Because they know once you go home, right, you're already lost, right? You lost your trend, you lost your frame of mind, right? The studies are going to go down the tubes, right? So the truth is that depending on so how do you do, practically speaking? It should be done with the understanding. What does that mean? If you know everybody will come back and study after that, so then you can send them home and let them do, right? Whatever. But if you know that they're going to be flimsy, they're going to be wishy-washy, so then better to keep them at 7 o'clock. Lock them up. Put them chains on them. Lock them up until 7, and then when they do Arvit, they say Arvit at 7 o'clock. They'll go home 7:30 and they'll light 7:30 with the whole family. So it depends on the situation.
Now, is it a prohibition by us, to let the boys light also, or the wife light the candle?
Our custom is that we do one. One is for everybody. That's the idea.
My family is a custom that we train. First night I do it, then my wife, then my son, my daughter.
To be honest with you, according to halakha, this is not correct. The head of the household should do it. You know what I mean? Because really, it's your mitzvah, it's your home. So I'll tell you, there's 2 reasons why. Number 1, there's a rule like this in halakha, right? Adif mitzvah mishelo mishlucho. What does that mean? It's better to do it yourself than to make a shliach, to make an emissary to do it. When you make an emissary to do your mitzvah, you're losing reward for that.
And it's a deliberate.
Right, I understand you. But you see, the fact that you're right, but the fact that you're doing it, that's already enough chinuch, training. That's good training. They see you doing it, they know it has to be done. So there's really no reason for them. So therefore, from your vantage point, from the vantage point of halacha also, it's better that you should do every night. Whatever, get used to it. Get used to it.
What's the big deal? It's fun.
Hog it.
It's fun.
Right, I understand
I
you.
wanted to have fun
Right, no, I understand you, but it's not a matter of fun. It's a mitzvah. You know what I mean? Also, so because you want to do the mitzvah the proper way, so really the best way to do it is the father should do all the lightings for the whole nights of every night. Unless, as we said, he's not home. That's a different story, right? He's not available, right? He went somewhere, whatever. That's a different story. But so one concept is that it's better to do a mitzvah yourself than to have a shliach to do it for you. Number one. Number two, also they say that it's not proper to have your wife to do mitzvot for you, because you're the head of the household. You know what I mean? So it's like you come out to be like a marusia, sissy boy.
If she does that mitzvah, she gets the credit for that mitzvah.
I mean, it comes out good. Everybody fulfills the obligation. That's not the question. Okay. In this case, anyway, right? In the Chanuka. There are other cases which was not like that. But right. But what I'm saying is that since you're the head of the household, and the woman is the supporting player over there. When it comes to the mitzvot, especially, what I'm saying. When it comes to practical elements of the house, the woman is the queen, in the house. You know what I mean? But when it comes to mitzvot, there the man has to be, the boss. You know what I mean? That's his job to do the mitzvot, the Torah, the mitzvot. So therefore, because of these reasons, the two reasons that we mentioned, so therefore the proper thing is that the head of the household should do. That's the more proper way. So whatever. I mean. Think about it.
My wife is definitely listening to this lecture.
Okay, you get the idea. Very good. So let's go on a little bit. As we already mentioned inside, right? We said that the truth is that there's not obligation to do seudot on Chanuka, right? There's no obligation to do seudot. So what does that mean? If you do seudot, and you do some, as we said there are opinions like this, that if you do some divrei Torah and you do some nice songs to Hashem, play some stuff, put on your MP3, whatever it is that you put on your, right, whatever it is. So there also comes the seudat mitzvah that you do, like you're turning into like a holy endeavor, this kind of thing. This is also good. As we said also that there's a nice custom to eat all these foods that commemorate the holiday. What does that mean? Things which are fried in oil, like sufganiyot, donuts, these kinds of things, or latkes, right? Also, we have the dairy foods, as we said. It also commemorates the right. What does that mean? How does it commemorate? As we mentioned, that this lady, right? What happened was that Yehudit, right, was her name, right? She was a son of the Kohen Gadol. So what happened was that she was the next one online. You understand? What happened was that she was supposed to be now raped by one of these governors. Before she goes into the chuppah. I mean, what a disgrace that the daughter of Kohen Gadol has to go and be manhandled by this this uncircumcised beast, whatever. So what happens is, right, that she was a tough lady, a tough cookie, this one. So what she did was she chopped off his head, took a sword, and chopped it off. So she brought it out, and that was the beginning of the rebellion. That was how the rebellion started. Once they saw that, the governor was killed. By this was like a red line. They crossed the red line. There's no going back once you do that. You can't say, "Oh, I'm sorry, I regret that." There's no going back, right? Once you do something like that, it's an act of war. You know what I mean? It's an act of war. So therefore, she started the war. She was the tough lady of that family, right? That's what happened. So since the miracle was done by milk, what does that mean, right? The old trick, in the Bible is that when you give somebody milk, it makes them sleepy, right? It's a sedative, So because of that, she gave him milk first. She said, "You know what? Don't worry, we're gonna get it on together. Don't worry. But first, let me give you a nice drink. Milkshake." Nice milkshake. So he dozed off, and then she chopped off his head. That's what happened. That's exactly what happened. So therefore, in order to commemorate that miracle that happened, they eat dairy foods, right? So now this is time to eat your Italian dishes, lasagna, all kinds of stuff, right? Dairy, right? Baked ziti, all kinds of stuff, the khachapuri, all kinds of stuff like this, right? This is the time to get all those things out for Hanukkah. So this is minhagim, as we said, right? That the father of the Rambam, Rabbi Maimon, he said that even though these things are not really commandments, nobody obligated us to do these things, but since they're customs to commemorate the miracle, so therefore a person should try to do it. Why not? It's it's a nice thing to do. It's the proper way to behave. And don't think, this is just like childish, kid stuff. I'm not a kid, you know. What am I gonna do? Eat donuts, you know? Give me a break. You know? Hanukkah's about donuts, you know.
Yeah.
Come on, give me a break. No, you shouldn't think like that. You know, that's what I tell you, right? No, donuts is also Hanukkah. That's also part of Hanukkah. You know?
As I said, yeah.
Minhag Yisrael Torahi. What does that mean? The Minhag of Israel is the Torah. That's also Torah. Even though it's not written in the Torah, but we made it into Torah by, you know, making it like a communal custom in the whole Jewish people. That's the idea, right? We took it on as a neder. You know, as a whatever. You know, this kind of thing. Okay, very good. Another interesting thing about Hanukkah is regarding how many candles a person has to light. What does that mean? According to, you know, the custom that everybody does, we light first night 1, and then 2 and 3 and 4. Right? Each day goes up 1 step. But the truth is that according to the bare bones halakha, you don't need that. According to bare bones halakha, what it says in the Talmud, it's enough to do 1 candle every night. That was the real enactment, you know, that they made. But Bet Hillel says, right? Bet Hillel comes and says the best way to do it, you know, the finest way, you know, the supreme way, the deluxe way, is like every day, you know, increase 1 more, right? To commemorate the miracle. 1 more day of miracle, 1 more day of miracle, to show that. So what's the practical difference? The practical difference is like this, right? If a person has enough candles, he should do like Bet Hillel. What does that mean? Every day to increase. 1 more every day. But if a person has like very limited resources, you know, we shouldn't see from that, right? God forbid. But sometimes it happens. Let's say you go somewhere, you know, you don't have over there a lot of candles, you only have 1, you can only find 1. So like that one, because that you fulfill your obligation with that one. You know what I mean? Better 1 than nothing. And don't worry about now about shamash. Don't worry about shamash. Right? You did 1, that's good enough. That's a bare bones mitzvah. Right? Everything else is the tosefet. It's bonus. That's the idea, right? So a person should know that if he has no choice, he can also be yotzeh. He can also fulfill his obligation with even 1 candle. Another thing which is interesting is regarding the are you allowed to use electricity for Hanukkah candles, right? To make electric menorah. You know, today in America, it became very famous, this thing, right? Every place you go, especially to the reform areas, you know, more not religious, you know, they call them, the Ashkenazim call that fried Jews, fry. You know what's fry? The secular Jews, fried Jews, right? They call them fry. I don't know why they call them fry. Maybe they're fried up. They're fried up in the pan. I don't know exactly what that means. But it's probably something Yiddish there, whatever. But anyway, the point is, like, these fried Jews, right, the secular Jews, they tend to use, like, you know, electric menorah. So the question is, are you allowed to use electric menorah? Is the question, right? So what's the answer? The answer is that according to most poskim, you're not allowed to use. What's the reason why? It has a very nice light. It's very nice and bright. So what's the problem? The problem is that they say that the mitzvah was done, the enactment that was done for Chanukiah was done with oil and with a wick. You know. So here, what does that mean? Oil is the fuel. You need to have a fuel. You need to have a wick. So therefore, you don't really have that here. You know, there's really no fuel, no tangible fuel over there. It's just like something coming through the wires. You know, whatever. So therefore, what happens is that a person should preferably not use electric unless there's no choice whatsoever. There are some poskim who allow, in like a dire emergency case, to use electric. What does that mean? I'll give you an example. Right? Let's say this happened to me, by the way, one time personally. What happened was that I went on a plane the first night of Hanukkah. I was flying to Israel from New York, and before the flight, we had a chance to light. Actually, there was time. But we had also a wedding to go to, you know. We were invited to a wedding. Our rabbi invited us. He was marrying off his daughter. So he invited us to a wedding also. So first we went to the wedding and then we went to the plane. What a night, right? Some night. So what happens is that, the truth is, I went to my rabbi because he was marrying off his daughter, you know. I told my rabbi, I said, Rabbi, what should I do? You know, where am I going to light the Hanukkah candles? Because we brought, you know, with us. When we went to the wedding, we brought with us like a menorah, a small, portable one, you know, small one. You know, with the little candles over there, whatever. So we asked the rabbi, what should we do? You know, where should we light? Now we're at the wedding, then we have to go to the plane. So he told us, you know, light over here at the wedding, right here. You know, and then go catch a plane. The truth is, you know, we didn't do it for some reason. We got distracted, you know, the bride, the groom, the music, all kinds of stuff. We couldn't, for some reason, we didn't pull it off. You know, we were like too distracted. So because of that, we didn't light during the wedding. And then we went to the airport, and the airport, like, they pushed us through very fast. So we had no time to light over there. All of a sudden, 10 minutes later, we're on the plane. You know? And we didn't light the Hanukkah candles.
That's a miracle by itself.
Exactly. It's a Chanuka miracle. No question, right? So we didn't light the candles. We're on the plane. You think they'll light candles on a plane? They'll kill you. They'll get the FBI on you, right? You'll be with you'll be in jail right before you can turn around. So what happened was that we didn't know what to do. That flight was going to land. It was already going to be in the morning. Too late. So what do you do? You know. So the truth is, we weren't able to do nothing. We missed it. That was the only time I remember that I missed Chanuka candle. And they say, right, this mitzvah is very, very important. You shouldn't miss it.
And there's no
you know what I mean? Right. And once the dawn comes, that's it, right? It's done. So you learn from there an important lesson, right? What's the important lesson? That a person should have plans, to how to do it. But the truth is that there are some poskim. Why do I mention this? There are some poskim who mention that if you are like in a situation like that where you can't light a candle, there's no way to light a candle over there. You can light something electric. So right. So, but you know what they say though. You know what they say. Really, the truth is you should do without a bracha because we're not even sure if you're fulfilling your obligation. It's a safek. It's a doubt, right? Do without a bracha. But the interesting thing is that they say, the ones who allow, they say that you should only do it if that candle, if that electric is recognizable that it's a menorah, not just like a flashlight. Let's say because nobody knows you're doing a flashlight because of the Chanuka. It doesn't look like it.
So this would not be sufficient.
That would be, that's already fire, so that's not going to help you. They won't let you light it, zachikalka,
Oops.
They won't let you, that, right? They have fire detectors, man. They'll get you right away, So what happens is like this, right? It has to be lit for a half hour. Who's going to let you live for a half hour? You know what I mean? So it happens like this, right? That it has to be something which is recognizable. So if you bring like a menorah, which is electric, in a case like that, then you could pull it off maybe, because it looks like a menorah. It looks like it's for Hanukkah. So in a case like that, but the truth is this is all like hogwash. What does that mean? That a person shouldn't come to this, this kind of predicament. Make sure you plan it in a way that you have time to light Hanukkah candles, and then you can go wherever you want after that, right? You can go to your wedding, you can go to your plane, catch your plane. Don't go to a plane without first lighting Hanukkah candles, otherwise you're going to miss it. The truth is, in theory, a person could also light in the airport. If he's over there at the airport terminal, there's a roof over his head. He's not outside, right? He's not out in the field, right? In the runway. So as long as he's got a roof over his head, he's got a building there. So in theory, he could light over there the Hanukkah candles. There's no prohibition to do that. Because as long as you have a roof over your head, you've got some kind of a home there, some kind of a house, whatever. That's good enough. You're allowed to do. But once you get on the plane, that's it, right? You're done. That's it. Too late. So you gotta have everything planned out very, very well, very well. But a person, they say the Chazal that the Chanukkah candles are very, very dear. What does that mean? It's a very important mitzvah, even though it's only rabbinical. So make sure you got plans how to do properly everything. And don't get into like these kind of ruts. The guy, kind of the situation where you lose control over the mitzvah and now you're stuck without the mitzvah. That's the idea, right? Okay, very good. Very, very, very good. What else can we say over here? There's so much more to say. I can tell you a lot. There's a lot to say. Another interesting thing is regarding when we light the Hanukkah candles. We'll stop after this one. When we light the Hanukkah candles on Erev Shabbat and Motzi Shabbat. What does that mean? There's always going to be one Shabbat on Hanukkah, right? Sometimes there's even two, by the way.
Yes.
Sometimes, if it starts on Shabbat, it ends on Shabbat. Right? You know that. Yes. But if it doesn't start on Shabbat, it's only going to be one. Mm-hmm. So what happens like this? How do you do it Erev Shabbat? How does the sequence go? Right? The truth is, right, in general, as we mentioned, the Hanukkah candles you have to light at night once it gets dark. 15 minutes after the sun goes down, 20 minutes. You got to light. That's the idea. But when it comes to Shabbat, you can't do that. It's already Shabbat. You can't light a fire on Shabbat. So what do? So we got to light before Shabbat. So what do? Sun goes down 4:30. So approximately 4 o'clock you should light the Chanukkah candles. Let's say. Make a bracha, everything normal. You have to put a lot of oil, as we said, it should last at least an hour and a half. Because it has to go into Shabbat in a half hour after that. So it has to be like an hour and a half job here, at least. So what comes first, the Shabbos candles or the Hanukkah candles? That's the question, right? First what?
Hanukkah.
Why is that? You're right, but that's one.
Because once you light Shabbat candles, what else are you going to light?
Oh, so you see what it's saying? So the truth is, that there's two different customs. Oh, okay. So the interesting thing is like this, right? That the truth is that we Sephardim, our custom is not like that. What does that mean? that when we light the Shabbos candles, we don't take on Shabbat yet. We can still do, go just do some things, cook a little bit, bake a little bit, drive your car a little bit. Right? Even the women, by the way, even the women don't. By us, the Sephardim, we don't take on Shabbat when we light the candles. We don't take on Shabbat. The Ashkenazim do that. The Ashkenazim take on Shabbat when they light the candles. So when the woman lights, she can't do Melech anymore, but she can tell her husband to do. Still, because her husband didn't take it. Right, exactly. So that's the way it works. But by us, we don't really take it on. But nevertheless, right, since it's like element of Shabbat there, once you take on, when you light the lamps and the candles, even though they're not obligated 100%, but nevertheless, the bottom line is that Hanukkah should be done first, right? Because once you get into Shabbat, you're like in the mode of Shabbat already, whatever. So the Shabbos candle should be close to Shabbat as possible. So Hanukkah candles can be a little bit far off. So therefore, you should first light the Hanukkah candles and then do the Shabbat candles. Something very interesting, by the way, that you cannot light the Hanukkah candles at 3 o'clock. That's too early. What does that mean? It has to be not more than an hour before the sun goes down. So if the sun goes down at 4:30, you should not light any earlier than like 3:30, 3:40. Now the hours are shorter. So the truth is like 3:45. You shouldn't light before 3:45. Because if you do that, it's before even the first time that you can light. You're not going to fulfill your obligation like that. What does that mean? There's a time called Plag HaMincha. We know Plag HaMincha means it's 1 hour and a quarter before it gets dark. Which is 1 hour, yeah.
If I light the Hanukkah candle 3:45,
right.
I'm going to miss the Mincha.
Because what? Because what? Why? Because
it takes me about 20
But you're driving, right?
I'm driving. From my house to here, it takes me 25 minutes.
Why so long? Traffic.
It's impossible to cross Queens Boulevard. It's becoming impossible.
Barbina.
I need 15 minutes to...
Oh my God.
From Union Square, where I live, to cross Queens Boulevard, because of so many Ubers and everything.
Yes, wow.
It's practically impossible.
That's pretty good. Wow, I'm shocked. Wow. So if you light, let's say 3:45, you won't make it, you're saying?
I won't make it. I won't make it. This is why I let my wife on Shabbat.
Okay, I mean, if there's no choice, if you think that, you can do that, or one of your sons, whatever. Yeah, I mean, that night they can get also a piece of the action. That's what you wanted to get. Kill 2 birds with 1 stone, right? That's the idea. So in a case like that, you're right. If you can't be at home for some reason, but there's also another solution, which is you could pray local somewhere, over there in your area. I know you're sentimental. Sentimental. I understand you. Okay, so there is a solution for that. Right, that's the idea. But the truth is, if you can make it within a half hour, because they start like 4:15, the mincha,
4 o'clock,
right. But mincha is 4:15.
4:15.
Yeah. So you can still make it. Really, the truth is, Think about it. You know best, right? The Father knows best. That's the idea, right? So I think you can make it. I think I could pull it off. If I was in your place.
Tell you something.
Yeah.
The closer you get to 4 o'clock,
it becomes hectic. Yeah, it becomes hectic. Yeah, I know.
I've tested everything.
I know. You're right. There's a lot of rush over there. There's a lot of rush. You feel pressure.
So many Ubers.
Yeah, you feel.
They're making left and right turns.
Right. I understand you.
And the buses.
So that's the idea, right? That you should light, ideally speaking,
Close to Shabbat.
3:45, or like until 4 o'clock. Even 4:15 you can still light. I mean, the truth is, if you were not able to light, until 4:30 you still have time. You know what I mean? 4:30 is the last minute.
Okay.
So you can even light, 4:10, 4:05. But 4 o'clock is a nice, safe, zone, safe zone. This way you have no problems. You have no issues there.
Okay.
Right?
In our temple, the rabbi lights the Chanuka candles. No problem. Are we part of that? Do we get a partial mitzvah?
Regarding what they do in the shul.
Yeah, in the shul.
Before I get to that, I just want to do one more thing before we mention them. I want also mention the issue after Shabbat. What happens after Shabbat, right? That's how. Where do we light the Chanukkah candles after Shabbat? So in the shul, as you mentioned, right? We're going to be together in the shul, probably, right? You and me, we're always together, right? After Mincha, right? We're always here. So what happens is that the rule is you first have to light the Chanukkah candles and then do Havdalah in the shul, right? Why is that? There's 2 reasons for that. One is because we want to push off Shabbat. We want to keep it as long as possible. So therefore we make the Havdalah as later as possible. So therefore we do the Hanukkah candles first. That's one reason, which is put down the Ravad. There's also another reason put down, which is that once you do Havdalah, everybody runs out. They all run home, so nobody's going to see the lighting. So the whole point is that we should have publication of the miracle, right? Publicize the miracle. So but at home, it's the opposite way. When you go home, first Havdalah and then the Ner Chanukah, because there's no reason now to do the Ner over there right at home. Nobody's going to run away from you, right? There's no issue like that. So therefore, what you do is at home, when you go home, first Havdalah, there's a rule like this, tadir v'lo tadir tadir kodem. First comes the usual mitzvah that you do, like all the time, every week we do that, and then the other one which is not usual. So therefore, at home we do like that. Even though there's also another opinion which is the opposite way. Halacha is like that. Halacha is that we do first Havdalah. So in shul it's the opposite. At home is the opposite, right? That's 180 degrees, 80 degrees around. Now, regarding your question, right? Regarding the Chanuka candles in the shul. This is also a very important question, and the question is like this, right? Why do we light Chanuka candles in the shul? Everybody lights at home. So what's the purpose? So they say that this is a custom which they brought in like hundreds of years ago. It's an old, ancient custom. You know why? Because what happened was that the lighting of the candle, Hanukkah candle, was moved basically from the outdoors to the indoors. In the old days, people used to light outdoors. What does that mean? Right next to the door, they used to light. The entrance to the door. Right there, right next to the mezuzah on the other side. Outside. Right. Because they wanted to show the people outside. To publicize the miracle. That was the whole idea. Nowadays, we don't do that. You know why? Because of the danger. There was danger that came in. What does that mean? All kinds of danger. They may come and do something. All kinds of things. Right. Anti-Semitic. We know how that feels. Right. We have it also in our generation. All kinds of things. Like they may damage the menorah. They may steal it. And all kinds of things like this. Right. Or they may beat somebody up or whatever it is.
But if you light outside, the wind might blow it out.
Right. So what they used to do, they used to cover it with glass. Something like some kind of a glass case, whatever, or something like that. Issue like that, right? If you put it outdoors, it'll go out. No question about that. Right? They used to put it in some way, some protection. Yeah, that's the idea. So what happens like this, right? That, as we said, now the mitzvah, because of the danger, sakana, it moved indoors, the mitzvah. So therefore, most people don't not light now by the door anymore. There's no issue with the door anymore so much. So where they light, either by the window, or on the table, your dining room table, one or the other, right? There's several minhagim. Some do over here, some do over there. There are some people also who went back to the old minhag of going to the door again, right? In Israel, some people do that. But most people don't do it this way. And there are reasons for that, because they say once the mitzvah moved indoors, you shouldn't move back outdoors. That's it. Once it was moved, right? That's the idea.
As soon as you walk into my house, there's a sink on my right hand side.
A sink,
So there's a nice table. That's where I'll go light it.
Very good. That's fine. Fantastic. It's on the inside, you're saying, right?
Inside.
Yeah. You can either it should be next to the door, or also you can put it in the window. This way your neighbors will see. You know what I mean?
The neighbors might cross
whatever you have, right? I don't know exactly what your views are over there. Your angles, I don't know what angles you have over there. Right, whatever. Everybody has different angles, right? Whatever. But you know what it's like. If people are going to see it, it's nice to put it in the window. So that's the idea. So what happens is that now that you have the mitzvah is really for the family now, not really for the outdoors anymore. You're doing it for your household. So therefore, in order to remedy that problem, to counteract this lack of doing outdoors, what does that mean in public? That's the reason why they started doing Bet Knesset. In order to have the public also lighting, everybody comes in, everybody sees it. Pirsum Anisa, publication of the miracle. Right, that's the idea. This is why they started to do it in the Bet Knesset. That's one reason. Also, there's another reason why they started to do it, which is that they say that there are people who are homeless. They don't have a place to live, so therefore they come to the shul and they do the mitzvah in the shul because they have no place. When you don't have a home, you can't really light outside in the field. That's not really the proper way to do. You gotta have a home for that. So therefore, since some people don't have a home, and they're coming and staying in the shul. Some people in those days they used to sleep in the shul. Some quarters they had some bedrooms over there, some rooms over here, there. They doze off over there. That's the way it was. And they used to eat there also on Shabbat. They had meals over there. It was like a whole big operation over there. That's why they make kiddush on Leil Shabbat. That's the reason why we do it, because they used to have guests over there in the shul. This is the reason why. Even though today we don't have it, we still kept the minhag some places. So nice minhag, right? It has some good elements to it. So the thing is like this, right? This is the issue of the Bet Knesset. So there's two elements over here. One is to publicize in public. The other one is with the guests. People who are homeless, whatever. People don't have a place to stay. Guests, wayfarers or travelers, right? In those days there wasn't so much hotels, like this today. So people used to come to the shul. Everything was local. Everything was communal. You know what I mean? That was the idea. So this is the reason why they did the candles of the Bet Knesset, right? So the truth is that there's an interesting question regarding this. So the question is, do you fulfill your obligation with that? So the answer is, if you're lighting at home, you don't. Right? This is not for you. This is for the homeless people who have no place to stay. They can't fulfill their obligation according to some opinions in the shul. Right? The rabbi will lie, whatever it is, right? they will fulfill their obligation with that. But the ones who have a home, they're not fulfilling their obligation with that. That's for sure, right? So therefore, a person shouldn't say, I saw it at the shul, I won't go home and do it. No, what is it? Has nothing to do with that, right? Right, exactly. The custom of lighting in the shul is only minhag. It's not really like something which we were commanded in those times of the Maccabees, and the Hashmonaim. There was no such a thing like that in those days. This came in later on, this minhag, as we said, because of the circumstances that changed. This is the reason why. But there's also another question regarding the lighting of the shul, which is what? That if it's only a minhag, as we said, right? So there's a rule in the Shulchan Aruch. You know what it says? It comes from the Gemara also. Masechet Sukkah. It says we don't bless on a minhag. You're not allowed to make a blessing. What does that mean? Why can't you bless on a minhag? Because what are you saying? Right? Asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu. You're saying v'tzivanu. Who commanded you? Somebody commanded you to do this? It's a minhag. God commanded you? The rabbis? Nobody commanded you. Not God, not the rabbis. So how are you saying Asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu? Who commanded you to do it? So it's a waste of bracha. So the question is, how do we make a bracha in the Bet Knesset? We do make a bracha. By the way, there are some rabbis who say you should not because of that reason. But the custom is that we do. So how do we make a bracha? If we don't make a bracha in minhag. So the answer is, there are several answers which are given, but the most logical, feasible one is that since it's Pirsum Nisa, since it's a publication of the miracle, right? You're publicizing the miracle. So therefore, in order to do that, you're allowed to make a bracha, right? But in general, though, in general terms, we don't make a bracha on minhagim, on customs. We only make a bracha on something which we were commanded by the Torah to do, or commanded by the rabbis to do. Right? What's an example? Examples like this, right? Let's say you're buying kelim, right? To church Rabbi, plates, forks, utensils, cups, bowls, all kinds of things like this, right? So if there's two types of material you have to tumble into the mikveh. One is metal, and the other one is glass. All the other things do not require mikveh, right? Porcelain, china does not require. Don't waste your time, right? Don't waste your precious time bringing those things. Maybe you'll break something. Maybe all kinds of. And if you make a bracha, it's a wasted bracha. So those are the two things which are required. But there's one difference, right, between these two. The metal is from the Torah. Where do we see this? When they had the war with Midian, the Sefer Bamidbar, it says over there you have to do that. Right? So it's written in the Torah. When it comes to glass, it's from the rabbis. Why do they make it add glass also, the rabbis? Because they say it resembles metal. What does that mean? Just like metal is very smooth and it's forged with fire, so glass is also like smooth and it's made with fire. So since it resembles one to the other, they said you should also do it with glass. So this is the two things that they made, right? They made metal, which is from the Torah, and glass is from the rabbis. So now, what happens like this, right? You come to the mikveh, you bring, let's say only glass. So do you make a bracha? It's only rabbinical, yes. Because since the rabbis commanded you, it's as if the Torah commanded you, right? Because what the Torah said, you're obligated to do the words of the rabbis. So therefore, since they commanded you, it's like the Torah. Therefore, we're allowed to say, Asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu. Why? Because the rabbis commanded you, it's like the Torah commanded you. But when it comes to something which was not commanded at all by anybody, just a minhag, so how can you say v'tzivanu? So therefore, in a case like that, let's say you want to be machmir, right? And also tobel you want to also immerse your porcelain, right? Your china in there. You cannot make a bracha on that. It's a minhag. No, there's nobody commanded you to do that. So if you make a bracha, what is it called? Bracha levatala. That's the idea, right?
What happens to all the utensils that never been washed in the mikveh?
Take them now. Never too late, right? Better late than never, as they say. Right? But we're only talking about glass and metal. Otherwise, don't waste your time. Yeah. What you do is, what you do is like you do one trip. That's what I did when I came over here to my mom's place. I packed up everything, big bags like this, put them into the trunk of the car. Nice big, load stuff. You go and you take care of everything in one shot, Dump to gasaka, That's the idea, right?
And you have to dump it one by one? You just have to wash it out? Or
so how does it work? It works like this, right? When it comes to tefillat kelim, once your hand is wet, the rule is like this, right? That the water has to get on every side of the keli, right? That's the idea. But once your hand is wet, it's considered to be also the water is on that side too. So therefore, once you get your hands wet, now you can put them in with your hands, and even though the water didn't get around, it's considered to be good. Why? Because your hands were wet.
You cannot take the mikveh water home and just...
No, that cannot do. No. That's because you need to be connected with the mikveh. That's not really the mikveh water. What you're putting it in, that's not the mikveh water. That's like a attachment. It's like a jacuzzi there. So the real mikveh is inside there, in the back somewhere, the back room, and there's a tube that connects them. You know what I mean? That's the reason why it's kosher. So, get your sons, and get some U-Haul, U-Haul power. Okay, Baruch Adonai Leolam, amen, amen. Laila Tov, thanks for coming. God bless. All the blessings,
You need the right?
including wealth and health, by the way,
Amen.
including
Amen.
because
To
we're
everybody.
always worried about that. You know that, especially me. I'm always
About this, I want to talk to you about something.
okay.